Tony Ferguson burst onto the UFC scene as a contestant on The Ultimate Fighter Season 13.
Everything else, happiness could be fake, crying could be fake, but pain? Shit. That's real.
Ferguson went on to rack up an incredible 12-fight winning streak, earning him interim lightweight title honors. However, Ferguson's meteoric rise would ultimately lead to a painful downfall.
This fight is crazy. Oh, man.
In his most recent fight against Paddy Pimblett, Tony looked as if he was way past his prime and is now within the twilight era of his fighting career. Keep watching and follow along as Fighter 411 will uncover the rise and demise
Tear top that. See what he's doing. See where he goes. See, you're moving.
of a once promising young fighter's legacy. And most of all, expose the diminishing career of Tony Ferguson. If you like this kind of content, please smash the subscribe button and be one of the first to be notified for more Fighter 411 content. After winning The Ultimate Fighter, Ferguson hit some early bumps, suffering a broken arm and a submission loss to Michael Johnson, but he was determined to fulfill his championship dreams.
He locked it up. This is his thing.
Looking to finish right here.
This is his technique.
Ferguson went on an epic run starting in 2013, displaying ever-improving skills.
He had no answers for my inside leg kicks. He was blocking a lot of my punches and he was bunched up.
He implemented a highly unique style defined by snap kicks, elbows, and rolling attacks from the bottom. He immediately stood out with his unorthodox striking and endless cardio, blitzing opponents from bizarre angles.
Here it seems this is one of Ferguson's favorite chokes here.
Ferguson's relentless pace and durability overwhelmed opponents. Along his career in the UFC, Tony solidified himself as a major contender in the lightweight division.
Tony Ferguson tagged him with everything but the kitchen sink tonight and finally shut the lights out.
Rising up the ranks, Ferguson ripped off 12 straight wins, solidifying himself as the most feared man in the stacked lightweight division. Big wins over the likes of Josh Thompson, Edson Barboza, and Rafael dos Anjos cemented Ferguson as the division's most dangerous contender.
Trouble early for the veteran Gleison Tebow.
Tony's got him flattened up. He's got the back.
Can he get it?
Meanwhile, his bizarre antics like screaming during stare-downs earned him the sinister moniker of El Cucuy, or Boogeyman in the octagon.
Back fist ball, nice spinning elbow from Ferguson. Tremendous athlete. What a fight.
His relentless win streak had placed him among the ranks with organization superstars such as Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov. But just as Ferguson reached for undisputed gold, his body began to betray him.
His time, got the back, sunk the hooks in. I mean, this is a dazed Gleison Tebow because there's no way.
Injuries and the unrelenting grind of competition took their toll on El Cucuy. The ominous cracks in Ferguson's armor hinted at the darkness to come. While lesser men may have walked away, Ferguson's warrior spirit compelled him forward.
Boom. Yeah. Right on the jaw. I mean, let me tell you something. Kakuno can take a tremendous punch because he took several big bombs.
But driven by pride and dreams of destiny, he chose to ignore the signs of his physical decline. Ferguson's refusal to heed the warnings would result in a perilous freefall filled with violence and defeat. With Conor McGregor chasing boxing paydays and Khabib Nurmagomedov perpetually injured, it was Ferguson who carried the lightweight division on his back. A scheduled bout between Ferguson and Nurmagomedov was cursed, falling apart due to injuries and other issues.
Now the UFC doing their own thing, seeing behind the scenes, being there left and right, and then pulling through with pandemic, losing my belt and then gaining it, and there's like all this.
But his quest for championship gold was set between another competitor, and his pay-per-view headliner against Kevin Lee for the interim belt gave him the spotlight he had earned. At UFC 216, Tony Ferguson captured the interim lightweight belt against Kevin Lee. The El Cucuy era was here. If you're a fan of MMA and remember the glory days of Tony Ferguson, hit that like button and subscribe to Fighter 411 for all types of fighter content. Finally, at UFC 223, the stars aligned for Ferguson versus Nurmagomedov.
And he's looking to land that one big shot, but he's not being very defensive as he's doing it.
And look how heavy his arms are now.
He's exhausted.
But in a shocking turn of events, Ferguson tore his LCL after tripping on camera cables at a media event. This unfortunate result led to the UFC stripping Ferguson of the lightweight interim title, and Tony was never able to defend it or outright obtain it. It seems as though a match between these two would never come to fruition,
And El Cucuy drops bombs.
and will be described to many as a cursed matchup.
Ferguson looking for the finish to the body.
Is in all kinds of trouble right now, Mike.
Ferguson trying to hunt him down and finish this fight.
Just like that, the most anticipated lightweight fight evaporated before everyone's eyes. Showing tremendous grit, Ferguson returned quickly from his knee injury to defeat Anthony Pettis. But the Pettis fight displayed a more hittable and flat-footed Ferguson, signs that his best days were likely behind him.
He's looking to land that one big shot, but he's not being very defensive as he's doing.
Tony was able to squeeze out one more win against Donald Cerrone, where a TKO was awarded to Tony, but through a doctor's stoppage.
Declaring the winner by TKO, Tony El Cucuy Ferguson.
It was on May 9th, 2020, with the world in a certain pandemic lockdown. Ferguson once again stepped up on short notice to fight Justin Gaethje at the UFC 249 main event. It was a valiant yet foolish decision. The relentless Gaethje dished out a sinister beating, snapping Ferguson's 12-fight win streak and initiating his downward spiral. Two more brutal finishes by Beneil Dariush and Charles Oliveira left El Cucuy a shell of his former self. The wars had finally caught up to Ferguson. His reaction time and durability rapidly declined. After getting knocked out by Michael Chandler, hopes of one last Ferguson run evaporated. Many voiced concerns about Ferguson continuing to compete as his skills deteriorated. But the stubborn fighter refused to walk away, insisting he was still in his prime. His denial resulted in 3 more lopsided losses, tarnishing his esteemed legacy.
He's pulling down on the head, and that's what causes the tap.
Necessarily banana style.
Khabib Nurmagomedov, who Ferguson was so close to fighting in his prime, suggested it was time for El Cucuy to retire. Tony Ferguson has now lost all of his last 7 fights, with Paddy Pimblett being the most recent loss by decision. By clinging to a past victory for far too long, Tony Ferguson transformed from an elite contender to walking punching bag. His diminished skills rendered him an easy payday for rising prospects. Tony Ferguson's story is an age-old combat sports tale of a fighter overstaying his welcome. His thrilling style and warrior mentality captivated fans during his peak years. But Ferguson held on too long, leading to a steady decline filled with painful defeats. While his legacy is strong, fans are unfortunately left with the lasting image of a faded shell of himself. Tony Ferguson serves as a sobering reminder that every fighter's time at the top is fleeting. Will we see at least one more El Cucuy victory? We'll have to see in the near future. But for now, that's the 411.